Haya, huyo mwingine akaitisha. Haya, nikapigiwa hapa. Nikasikia wamesema hapana, jamaa amemalizika.
Killing. Then someone who had sent me to come and kill you comes and takes over your property.
Lakini ukianza kufuatilia unapata hizo threatening messages.
So mmoja akanishukua mikono akanifunga, mwingine akanifunga miguu. Nilisikia tu jamaa amesema pigia hapa. One thing sijaijua paka wa leo ni hiyo. Sababu hiyo kitu huwa najaribu kuulizia, siwezi kuambia. Sijaiambiwa na mtu.
It is a trial that saw 12 suspects carry the blame of the killing of a Nairobi-based businessman. Among those tried was a powerful government official and his wife. Tonight on Case Files, the Lawrence Magondo murder mystery. This is the story of one killing whose motive has evaded both the trial judge and the appellate court. Two courts that have heard and delivered their verdict for the second time in the past 13 years. The case involved 12 people, all linked to the murder of a businessman. The actors at the time of the arrest and subsequent acquittal of some of them, a Lands Commissioner, his wife, their half-sister, her two siblings, and other suspects. Lawrence Githinji Magondo, at the time 58 years old, was a respected businessman and a property agent. The father of 4 children was a close friend to Wilson Gashanja, at the time the Lands Commissioner, and his wife, Elizabeth Gashanja. On the 2nd of February 2000 at around 5 p.m, a taxi driver reported to Kitengela police station that he had discovered a body somewhere on the road. The corpse was that of Lawrence Githinji Magondo. Lawrence had been killed and his body dumped on a deserted road in the outskirts of Kitengela town. His hands were tied to his back, several blunt objects used to plunge him to death. His killers at the time were not known. The killing of the land agent became national news when it emerged that the Lands Commissioner and his wife had been arrested in connection to the murder. But just who wanted Lawrence Magondo dead and why?
Most of the weekends, wakati alikuwa narudi, alikuwa anafanyia shopping. Alikuwa anasema hii ni ya commissioner. Sikuwa nimejua kuona, lakini kulingana na zile vitu alikuwa ananunulia, alikuwa na spend almost 10,000 every weekend kuwanunulia vitu akirudi Nairobi.
The commissioner, the son, is referring to 13 years after his father was brutally murdered, was the then Lands Commissioner, Wilson Gashanja.
Alikuwa amelalishwa kwa stretcher, alikuwa amepigwa hapa nyuma kwa kichwa.
Among the first people to discover the body of the businessman was a taxi driver hired to ferry pupils of a local primary school. The driver will later tell the police the body of Lawrence Githinji Magondo lay on a deserted road. His legs were on the road, the rest of the body was in the bush. As police officers interrogated the taxi driver at the police station, Magondo's personal driver also arrived at the station. The driver was bleeding and terribly shaken. Harrison Kingori had survived the killing, but his boss was not lucky. He had been murdered in cold blood. Harrison Mwangi told Case Files it all started on the 17th of January the year 2000 when will-be prospective buyers of a plot his boss Lawrence Magondo had decided to sell in Athi River showed up at their offices in town.
Tulipofika kwa plot huyo jamaa hawakuwa. Na wale jamaa ambao ninajua ni client walikuja wakapita na gari. It was a Toyota K91 white in color. KAK 004J. After kupita, this guy had seen it before. Wakiwa wamekutana Buruburu. So mimi nilielewa ile gari ndio hiyo. Lakini nikaambia my boss, wale watu yako ndio wamepita. Akachukua simu akawapigia akawaambia hapana mmepita. Niko hapa nyuma kiasi. Utaona gari ya sio hapo. Walienda wakatano wakakuja. Wakatupata tumesimama kwa kiwanja. Kusimama kwa kiwanja ndio jamaa akatoka. Huyu jamaa amejiintroduce siku nyingine. So nilikuwa namjua kama Mwangi. Lakini ako na wengine watatu na msichana mmoja. So totally we were 5.
Mwangi then opened the boot of his car and asked Magondi if the barbed wire that was there was appropriate for fencing.
Fungua boot ya ile gari walikuwa wamekuja nayo. Ilikuwa na segege, 1 row mpya. Ilikuwa na mtaibo. Ilikuwa na nyundo na mapanga. Hizo vitu zote actually.
Magondo had no idea that he was staring at the weapons that were later to be used to kill him a few hours later.
Kwanza nilikaa kwa bacon ya kwanza. Kwa vile mimi na Magondo ndio tulikuwa tunajua bacon mahali ziko. So Mwangi anaona sister yake huyu sasa alikuwa anaitwa Angono, ndio alikuwa anafuatana. Anaenda anamuonyesha mahali bacon iko. Mfanyikazi mmoja ya wao anabaki kwa hiyo bacon. So paka tukasurround hiyo shamba yote. Unaona sasa kila mtu amesimama mahali yake. Lakini Mwangi na huyu Angonyo na Magondo wote sasa wako kwa bacon moja.
The business of selling a piece of land had started, so was a devious murderous scheme to eliminate Lawrence Githinji Magondo, a close associate of Wilson Gashanja, a powerful figure in the lands ministry, and his wife, Elizabeth Gashanja.
Magondo ndiye atatoa pesa ya kutengeneza ranch. Magondo akaambiwa na Mwangi hapana, mimi ndio nitalipia sababu mimi ndio nanunulia wafanyikazi wangu ranch. Ile kitu utanisaidia nayo, utanisaidia na driver wako Kingori vile mahali mnatengeneza garage. Mimi Mwangi akatoa pesa kanipatia.
Mwangi says he left the group on the piece of land, left for a local restaurant where he made an order for lunch before driving back to the farm.
So niliporudi kwa kiwanja niliwapata tu wakijadiliana, wale wafanyika vijana watatu wako kando. Ikakuwa sasa kitambo nyama ive waonyeshwe area bila inakaa sababu hawajai kwa hiyo area.
The group settled for Ostrich Farm where they bought water before heading back again to the piece of land as they waited for lunch to be prepared. Kingori told Case Files when he drove back to the hotel where they had ordered for food, his boss was now riding in Wilson Mwangi's vehicle and 4 other people that Mwangi had told him were his farm workers.
Ikasemekana wale wafanyikazi watatu, vijana watatu, mimi ni wabebe. Sasa Magondo, Mwangi na sister yake au ndio wako na deal na shamba waende kwa gari moja. Mimi kuna kitu iliniambia hapa sio strange. Nikaambia mzee mimi nilikuwa namuita mzee. Nikamwambia mimi mzee gari haina mafuta ya kwenda huko kuota. Kwa vile sasa ni wafanyikazi si muende nyinyi mtupate tu kwa kiwanja. Mwangi akasikia nikiambia mzee hivyo. Akainsist hapana twende hata kama ni mafuta utaenda kuwekea huko. Mimi nikamwambia mzee hapana hii gari haitafika huko na irudi kwa petrol station. Akasema hapana wewe twende haitakata. Nikamwambia mzee hii watu bila nimewaona si watu wazuri. Akaniuliza kwa nini? Nikamwambia unakumbuka siku ile tulikuwa Buruburu unakumbuka huyu Mwangi mlikutana na yeye? Huyu Mwangi alipokuja alikwambia ako peke yake na ataenda na matatu. Mimi nilikwambia ameenda na Mercedes.
That was when Kingori sensed danger. his fear about the group of 7 people, 3 in his car and 4 in the potential land buyer's motor vehicle, had become real.
Yule jamaa mwingine ambaye tulikuwa naye huko Masai Ostrich Farm na alishukia kwa shamba, nikamwona amekuja. Kakuja kaambia wabua, tuharakishe tumewachwa. Nikamuuliza tumewachwa na nani? Kaniambia hapana, si wadosi wameenda, gari ndio ile. Nikaona gari ndio ile. Nikamwambia, ai, na kama tumewachwa, mimi ndio mtaenda sababu sioni bosi yangu hapa. Akaniambia hapo kwa gari. Sasa hiyo alikuwa amezoea kuvaa zile kofia ya wazee. Kofia imekelewa pale kwa nyuma, kwa kioo ya nyuma. Akaniambia huoni hata kofia yake.
Unknown to Kingori, Lawrence Githinji Magondu had been killed earlier by the same group of people who had promised to buy a piece of land from him. Kingori had now become a target. The plan was to have him killed as well, as the group sought to finish its assignment.
Kaona jamaa wameanza kuongea baya sasa. Akaniambia, wewe nayo una shida ukiuliza bosi yako. Lazima upe na yeye. Akaniambia wewe mjinga, fuata hii gari vile tunakwambia. So huyu mwingine sasa kanishika mkono. Nikachukuliwa nikachukua kiti ya nyuma. Gari kaendeshwa. Hatukuingia ndani sana. Sikia sasa mwingine nikaona ameshomoka. Akasema malizeni haraka. So jamaa mmoja alishomoka tu akaenda nyuma ya ile gari ya Mwangi. Alishomoka na mtaifa Kroba. Na mimi nikaanza sasa, unajua sasa niliona sasa hapa ni kubaya sababu already gari nishaifikia, naona Magodu hayuko ndani. Kofia iko tu pale, lakini yeye hayuko ndani. Nikauliza yule jamaa aliniambia, "Sisi niambia Magodu yako kwa hii gari." Kaniambia, "Wewe shut up. Hapa maombi yako ya mwisho." Nilisikia tu jamaa amesema pigia hapa. So kusikia pigia hapa, mimi vile mkono iko hivi, nikimungu tu ilinisaidia. Hapo sijuagi vile nilifanya. Sababu nilifanya hivi kwa gari hivi nikaona kitu inateremka. Baadaye ipiga hapa, ikanipasua hapa hivi. Damu ikamwagikia hapa. So nikasikia mmoja amesema, umepiga mahali inafaa. Lete na mimi nimalize." Haya, sijuagi kama ni hiyo Kroba ambayo tena ilichukuliwa. Nikapigwa kichwa hapa. Sasa bahati naye huyo jamaa alikuwa amesema tobolea hapa. Sasa bahati ikashika tu nyama ikalaliwa. Haya, huyo mwingine akaitisha. Haya, nikapigiwa hapa. Nikasikia wamesema hapana, jamaa amemalizika. Mmoja akasema hapana, angalia kama amemalizika.
The killers left Kingori bleeding before fleeing Kitengela town. Kingori survived to place them at the scene of the killing.
Jamaa mmoja ndiye alishika sikio, akainua kichwa. Alishika tu sikio akainua kichwa. Hai, mimi nikaona hapana, nikarelease. So kurelease, nikasikia jamaa amesema, huyu ameisha. Haya, msichana akasema kama ameisha, asirudishe kwa gari na ufufuge.
After a few days, 12 suspects were arrested, among them Wilson Gashanja, his wife Elizabeth Gashanja, a half-sister Anna Ngoyo, Francis Kariako Muruatetu, Rose Njoki Muruatetu, Wilson Thirimbi Mwangi, David Karuga Njuguna, Stephen Wambui Kamau, and Joki Elias Blackie. Wilson Gashanja and 3 other suspects were later acquitted for lack of evidence, but his wife and 7 other suspects stood trial for the murder of Lawrence Githinji Magondu. The motive of the killing at the time was unknown. It wasn't until one of the suspects, Rose Njoki Muruatetu, told the police she received a telephone call from somebody calling himself Majimoto, who told her that somebody wanted to eliminate her brother-in-law, Wilson Gashanja. On the 21st of December 1999, by arrangement, she met that person Majimoto, who told her that 2 people were planning to eliminate Gashanja, and those 2 people were the deceased, Lawrence Githinji Magondu and Wan Kamuya. Majimoto had been promised 4 million shillings. It was from here onwards that a plan was put in place to have Lawrence Magondu dead instead. But the group, according to the trial judge, needed money, a place and a mobile phone before carrying out the murder. The group went for what Lawrence loved most, property, luring him to his death with a piece of land they had pretended to have an interest in buying. By the time the trial judge was putting the 12 suspects on their defense, the lands commissioner was a free man. The sister-in-law, who had told the court she had received money from him to carry out the murder, had, among others, a case to answer.
Marafiki wengi wa mzee wenye wangetusaidia, hakuna hata mmoja ashai kuja hata kutuambia mzee wenu alikuwa na kitu fulani hapa, mzee wenu alikuwa na kitu fulani hapa. Zile vitu tulikuwa tunajua wakati tunahangaika hapa, watu wanaziuza.
The main mover of the plot to kill Lawrence Magondu was Wilson Maina, the man who first introduced himself to Lawrence Magondu as a city-based businessman. Wilson was in the company of Anna Ngoyo, whom he said was his sister who had just arrived in the country. The financier of the killing, according to the first court of trial, was Elizabeth Gashanja, the wife to Wilson Gashanja. It was Elizabeth Gashanja, according to the court, who gave some of the accused people more than 1 million shillings before the killing of Lawrence Magondu. She was also in constant communication with some of the killers. She appeared before the trial judge. Elizabeth told the court that on the 26th of January 2000, she took her brother and sister to the bank and withdrew 1 million shillings from the children's account without their husband's knowledge. The money was to be refunded and placed in the children's account before her husband, Wilson Gashanja, knew about it. Elizabeth denied the money was meant to pay the killers of Lawrence Magondu. The two people she gave the money to were Francis Karioko Muruatetu and Rose Njoki Muruatetu. But it was a phone call that Wilson Maina made to Lawrence Githinji Magondu on the material day of his slaying that gave him in to police investigators. Maina was the man who called Magondu that morning before luring him to his death in Kitengela. When Maina appeared before the trial judge Mogoli Masaga, he denied being at the scene of the killing on the fateful 2nd day of February 2000. Coincidentally, Maina was known to Lawrence Magondu, but it was the evidence of David Karuga Njuguna that placed the 5 of the accused persons at the scene of the murder. In his statement to the police, David told the court Wilson Maina, the prime mover of the killing, suddenly stopped the vehicle, went round it and opened the back door, shouting at Lawrence Magondu. David told the court Maina was shouting at Magondu, accusing him of wanting to kill them. David says he joined Mwangi and Anna Ngoyo, the only woman at the scene, in tying up the businessman. David told the court it was Maina went to the back of the motor vehicle, came back with a crowbar and handed it over to Kagia, who used it to repeatedly hit the old man. Mwang then pulled Magondu out of the vehicle and had him thrown on the ground before the killers left the place. The rest of the accused persons were incriminated by their fellow suspects. After 2 years on trial, 8 of the 12 suspects were arrested in connection with the murder of Lawrence Githinji Magondu, who was sent to the gallows. 3 family members, Elizabeth Gashanja, a half-sister, Rose Njoki Muruatetu, and Francis Muruatetu. Wilson Thirimbi Mwangi, David Karuga Njuguna, Stephen Wambua Kamau, and Stephen Njoki alias Blackie were also sentenced to hang. Rose Njoki Muruatetu implicated the then Lands Commissioner Wilson Gashanja as the man who allegedly gave her money to take to a man only identified as Majimoto to kill Magondu. But the court was not convinced of the Lands Commissioner's guilt. After 9 years behind bars, the 8 accused persons appealed against their sentence. The court set free the Lands Commissioner's wife, Elizabeth Gashanja. The Court of Appeal ruled that the fact that she gave money to some of the killers did not mean she was the financier of the heinous crime. Who then financed the killing of a man described as a friend and a business associate of the Gashanjas? The family of the slain businessman says the killers of his fathers were known to him. Those jailed took part in the killing, they say, but the people wanted the father dead are still at large.
Wenye waliua babagu ndio walikamatwa, lakini kuna wale waliplan babagu wauliwe. Hao hawakukamatwa kwa maana hata wakati babagu aliuawa, ofisi yake ilifujwa kwa hiyo wiki na document zake zote zikaenda. Sasa hiyo tunaona kuna wale walitumwa wamuue na wale walitumana walikuwa na interest na property zake.
Mimi nikija nikuue, nichukutena nimetumwa na mtu, alafu nikuja nichukue vitu zako, unaweza, how do you feel? I come kill you, then someone who had sent me to come and kill you comes and takes over your property.
The trial judge appears to have relied on the statement of Kingori, the star witness, in the murder of the businessman and convicting the 8. The Court of Appeal, on the other hand, relied on the gaps on the evidence of the accused persons, implicating the Lands Commissioner's wife, to set her free. The Court of Appeal failed to conclusively determine the motive behind the killing of Lawrence Magondu. If money was not paid to have the businessman killed, then what was the motive of killing him? Who sent the other accused persons who hardly knew the businessman to have him killed, and why? Things have not been easy for the family of Lawrence Magondu. The wife died a few months after that of the husband. According to the family, she suffered paralysis before passing on.
It would be so sweet. I don't know where it would be. It would be very far. It would be very, very, very far. By the way, maybe I would be only at home like this by myself. But like himself too. Be only at home like this. Right now, we are here. We are stalled.
But the father is not on this farm in Nyeri anymore. The family says the father had great plans for them. He worked hard to see his children through school, but his ambitious life was cut short by his killers. The family is still chasing several pieces of land that belonged to the slain businessman. Most of the property was not known to the family.
Ukijua kitu moja uanza kufuatilia, unapata threatening messages. Unasikia unaona message, we are sent to kill you. Lakini ukiacha kufuatilia hiyo mambo inaisha. Ukikaa kama 6 months uanza tena unakuta. Sasa mimi nina threatening message mara 2. Nikianza kufuatilia na hiyo kitu unafuatilia iko na jina ya babagu. Ukienda RADS ufanye search unaikuta na jina ya babagu. Lakini ukianza kufuatilia unapata hizo threatening messages.
I feel that justice has not been done to us. I feel we've been smashed again. Tuna kama niku tumefinyiriwa sana sasa sijui namna gani.
When case files contacted the convicted killers now held at Kamiti and Langata maximum prisons, they declined to grant us an interview. And so, 13 years on, the actual killers of Lawrence Magondu are still in prison, but the planners and financiers of the murderous plot are still at large, and it appears no one is looking for them. The real motive behind the killing of Lawrence Magondu was somehow arrived at by the trial judge, but the Court of Appeal set aside that evidence. The people who allegedly financed his killing were set free.
Denison Sarigo for Case Files.